Hello folks, it's your buddy Ardent Party again. We're going to do another political studies piece this week for Terra Nova Tuesday. This week we'll be looking at the political parties involved in the National Convention in 1947 to 1949. This would have been the immediate lead up to the Confederation referendum, and if I recall correctly, this would have been one of the most, or sorry, not if I recall correctly, but this is almost certainly one of the most divisive periods in Newfoundland history, at least politically. So I do apologize, but again, I am somewhat depending on Wikipedia. As you can see here, I have a list of political parties in Newfoundland and Labrador. Actually, before I get too much into that, I should explain, if my voice sounds a little rough, it's because I'm still dealing with the final recovery from the illness I've had for a little while. I'm still doing a fair bit of coughing, but I'm finding that warm coffee and throat drops are doing a wonder for me, so hopefully. In any case, we will return to that Wikipedia article and go through that. So, right here we have present parties represented in the current House of Assembly. We have historical parties, which we will be looking at some point in the future. And the three parties that concern us today are the Responsible Government League, which was a political movement in the Dominion of Newfoundland. The Confederate Association was a political party formed and led by Joey Smallwood and Gordon Bradley to advocate that the Dominion of Newfoundland join the Canadian Confederation. This party was formed on February 21st, 1948, prior to the launch of the 1948 Newfoundland. This would have been the Newfoundland National Convention. Sorry, I think I may have that incorrect. And the Party for Economic Union with the United States, which was also formed in 1948. The Economic Union Party was a political party formed in the Dominion of Newfoundland on the 20th of March, 1948, during the first referendum. I'll be reading all of this shortly anyway, but as you see here, the membership card had the slogan, "For a Brighter Tomorrow." This is also part of the thumbnail. This is to certify that the undersigned is a member of the Party for Economic Union with the United States, and this is P.W. Crummy, who will, I believe that says Western Bay. I'm not able to read the signature here, but I suspect we will come to it in short order. But to begin, we will start with the Confederate Association, as this is the group that I am least happy about discussing, as it is, of course, Joey Smallwood's party. So, the Confederate Association was a political party formed and led by Joey Smallwood and Gordon Bradley. For those of you who are Newfoundlanders and know very well what Joey Smallwood looks like, you may be curious as to see what Gordon Bradley looks like. And I will add Newfoundland politician to the search string, and we will have a look at this individual. I do believe there are many pictures of him in various places. I do apologize for muting, but I am still, as I said, coughing. So he was born Methodist in St. John's in 1886. This is a fairly older picture of him, as far as I can tell. He looked significantly younger in other images I've seen. Let me just see if I can't find another image. I believe that may be him here with Joey Smallwood. No, I'm not certain of that either. In any case, we will continue on. Just one second. There we are. So, as we see here, this is Gordon Bradley speaking at the National Convention. This may very well have been Bradley's father. Sorry, no, I apologize. This would be Bradley. Bradley's father was a cabinet maker. A profession that placed him in the higher end of the working class. The young Bradley studied at the Methodist College in St. John's. This is early life stuff. He then worked with a law firm in St. John's, went on to attend Dalhousie Law in Nova Scotia. Little point of fact, for those of you who aren't aware of it, even today, Newfoundland does not have a specific law school of its own on the island. So if you want to train to practice law in Newfoundland, you can't do that training in Newfoundland. He was called to the bar in 1915. Bradley was an active member of the Orange Lodge, which is something akin to Freemasons or the Lions Club, things of that nature. It is, in fact, a religious organization, a Protestant fraternal organization, and eventually served as its Grand Master. In 1942, he was elected to the House of Assembly. So he was an elected member of government. In 24, sorry. He was one of the few people who opposed the creation of the Commission of Government. He felt that the government was sacrificing the best interests of the Newfoundland people to protect the financial interests of the British, who had loaned money to Newfoundland. Yes, and who had had that repaid by the time the end of the war had happened. But we don't talk about that, do we? Bradley was disillusioned with the island's political life and was happiest living in Bonavista, where he took up the position of magistrate. In other words, he wanted to get the hell away from St. John's. He led a royal commission into the standard of living of woods workers, and he condemned the low pay and harsh conditions under which those men had to work. In 1939, he resigned as magistrate and engaged in the fish business. My apologies. Bradley was a liberal who believed in democratic government. He was not a socialist, but he felt the government should take care of those most in need. He was also pessimistic about Newfoundland's ability to survive on its own, and he became convinced that Confederation would bring benefits, although the public did not know his views. He also distrusted the St. John's business community, which he felt put its own interests ahead of the interests of the country of Newfoundland. During the immediate post-war period, Bradley began working with Joey Smallwood to promote Confederation. I will point out that Smallwood himself was an avowed socialist, if not communist. He tried to keep Smallwood from hurting Confederation's chances by moving too aggressively. Yeah, that didn't work out well. Bradley was elected to the National Convention and, as one of the few members with parliamentary experience, was elected Speaker of the Convention after the death of the first chairman. He helped negotiate terms of union with Canada, for which he received much criticism from anti-Confederates. He also allowed Smallwood to be the front man in the Confederation campaigns. After Confederation, Bradley became a federal politician, a Canadian federal politician. And this is just other things. So that's Bradley himself. So the Confederate Association was a political party formed and led by Smallwood and Bradley to advocate that the Dominion of Newfoundland join the Canadian Confederation. The party was formed on February 21st, 1948, prior to the launch of the 1948 Newfoundland referendums on Confederation. We will come to those at a later date. And I have actually a couple of different links that I will be looking at there. Yes. The party was formed February 21st, 1948, prior to the launch of the 1948 Newfoundland referendums on Confederation. The party was opposed by the Responsible Government League, led by Peter Cashin. I don't believe it's going to show us Peter Cashin. And the Party for Economic Union with the United States, led by Chesley A. Crosby. Also, they didn't show a picture of Chess. There is a very interesting picture of Chesley Crosby coming up. And I will remind my viewers that fashions don't change as fast as one might think. 2 referendums were held as the result of the first vote, the results of which are also both included in the thumbnail, in which 3 options were considered: Confederation, which was joining Canada; responsible government, which was a return to Newfoundland's independence; or a continuation of the Commission of Government. The first referendum, held on June 3rd, 1948, saw the Confederation option receive 41.1%. I do believe I have those results here in the other window. Here we are. So I will bring that over and show you guys that. So the referendums on June 3rd, 1948, the first of 2 were held on the advice of the convention. That would be the National Convention. Voters had 3 options: return to Dominion, Commission of Government, which was the status quo at the time, and Confederation with Canada. You will note that one of the parties that I will be covering today is the Party for Economic Union with the United States, which was unsuccessful in getting an option put on the ballot. And of course, you can see here that the votes were fairly clear that they wanted to one way or another, remain independent. If you combine these totals, you get roughly 59% of the country wanted to remain independent in one fashion or another. Of course, because the option for responsible government won a plurality, but not an absolute majority, the governor and commissioners called for a second national referendum. Because this particular option did not receive 50 plus 1% of the vote, 50% plus 1 of the vote, it did not pass. The option for responsible government won a plurality, but not an absolute majority. The governor and commissioners called for a second national referendum, one between Confederation and Dominion status. Anti-Confederates wanted the second national referendum options limited to responsible government and commission of government, believing that if responsible government won, it would be in a position to negotiate better terms with Canada. On July 22, 1948, a second national referendum was held. In the second referendum, only two options appeared: Dominion status or Confederation. Which, Dominion status being responsible government. And the votes here were different. Confederation received 52.3%, where Dominion received 47.7%. And as they say, the Confederation option won by a narrow margin, and Newfoundland became Canada's 10th province the next year. Excuse me. But just to look at the other two parties involved, we will look at the Responsible Government League. This would be the League of Independence. Sorry, let me put my face back on camera. This would be the League of Independence for Newfoundland and Labrador. Newfoundland at the time. My personal thinking at this late stage is that this would have been the best choice for Newfoundland as one of the parties involved had pointed out. This would have put Newfoundland in a far better negotiating position than a return to commission or to a straight vote for Dominion status. For Confederation status. And there are some citations required and things like that for this article. Not surprising with Newfoundland history. The Responsible Government League was a political movement in the Dominion of Newfoundland. It was led by Peter Cashin, and we will take a quick look at Mr. Cashin. Peter John Cashin, Major Peter John Cashin, born 1890, died 1977, was a businessman, soldier, and politician in Newfoundland. Cashin, a son of Sir Michael Cashin. Do we have a picture of Michael Cashin? We do, in fact. Joined the Newfoundland Regiment. Actually, I want to go back and just appreciate that glorious mustache for just a moment. Joined the Newfoundland Regiment during World War I and ultimately served in the British Machine Gun Corps. And the Machine Gun Corps was a corps of the British Army formed in October 1915 in response to the need for more effective use of machine guns on the Western Front in the First World War. He returned to the family fishery supply business upon being demobilized. He entered politics, winning election to the House of Assembly as a Liberal Labour Progressive. That is one of the pre-Confederation parties that I will look at in the future. In 1923, before crossing the floor to join the Newfoundland Liberal Party in 25 in a dispute over tariff policy. We don't actually need to look at the definition of the word tariff. He served as Minister of Finance from 28 to 32 when he resigned from the government and accused Sir Richard Squires, then Prime Minister of Newfoundland, of falsifying the minutes of Executive Council meetings to cover up certain legal fees he had been paying himself out of public funds. His actions, Cashin's, precipitated a general election that defeated the Squires government but also cost him his own seat in the legislature. Cashin moved to Montreal in 33, returning to Newfoundland in 42. And opposition to the Commission of Government and joining Canada. In his day, he was considered one of the best orators in Newfoundland. Upon his return to the island, he embarked on a campaign opposing the Commission of Government, which had been brought about in 1934. Elected to the National Convention, formed in 46 to consider the British colony's future. In 1947, Cashin was one of the members... Sorry, I'm just trying to hunt down. There is some audio from Major Peter Cashin somewhere here. Here we go. Which I will play for you guys. In 47, Cashin was one of the members of the National Convention's delegation to London, charged with finding out what assistance the British government was prepared to give Newfoundland in the future, including development aid or cancellation of the Dominion's debts. The results were disappointing as Britain refused to give Newfoundland any promise of financial assistance. And again, as I had pointed out, During the Second World War, Newfoundland actually sent a significant amount, an extremely significant amount of money into the war effort, and yet saw no return for that, even though we were supposed to have been an independent country at the time. Problem is, when you're being ruled by a distant government, yeah. In any case, nevertheless, Cashin opposed Smallwood's campaign to join Canadian Confederation and became the leader of the Responsible Government League, leading it into the 1948 referendums on Newfoundland's status. On May 17, 1947, Cashin delivered this speech to the National Convention regarding the future of Newfoundland. I say to you that there is in operation at the present time a conspiracy to sell, and I use the word sell advisedly, this country to the Dominion of Canada. Watch in particular the attractive bait which will be held out to lure our country into the Canadian mousetrap. Listen to their flowery sales talk, which will be offered to you, telling Newfoundlanders they're a lost people, that our only hope, our only salvation, lies in following a new Moses into the promised land across the Cabot Strait. Cashin was unsuccessful in the referendum, though he was convinced that he had actually won and that the referendum result had been falsified by the British. And just to play you that one piece here, I will move over to this page, which is actually from heritage.newfoundland.ca or heritage.nf.ca, and I will mute myself. As I was saying, I will mute myself and turn on my desktop audio, which should allow you guys to hear it. If you don't, please kindly tell me in the comments, as I have probably boomered the hell out of this somewhere along the line.
Viscount Addison first wanted to know what we wanted to see him about. He wanted to prepare himself in advance. He did not want to be taken by surprise. Now, Mr. Chairman, compare this with the preliminaries of sending a delegation to Canada. Did they send us a guard or a request to know what we wanted to see them about? Did they ask for memorandums? Not at all. They almost fell over themselves putting out the welcome hand. The delegation would be welcomed with a heart and a half. The joy bells will ring out in Ottawa when they arrive. Now, what does all this mean? In the first place, it means that the British government has endorsed Canada's action, that she has encouraged Canada to give us a big hand. And if she has done this, it also means that the British government is prepared to see us go into Canada, that she wants us to go into Canada. For myself, I see in it just a further confirmation of something which I have long expected. I have much interesting evidence later which I may place before this House when the matter of forms of government eventually come up. But for the present I'll say this, and you may think I am talking rashly if you like. I say to you that there is in operation at the present time a conspiracy to sell, and I use the word sell advisedly, this country to the Dominion of Canada. I repeat, some people may think I am talking wildly, but I would ask them to remember that long before this, I made statements in this House which were regarded at the time as wild prophecies, but time proved that I was right. All I ask you then to do in the present instance is to watch events develop in the coming 2 months, then pass your judgment on the statements I make today. Watch in particular the attractive bait which will be held out to lure our country into the Canadian mousetrap. Listen to the flowery sales talk which will be offered you, telling Newfoundlanders they're a lost people, that our only hope, our only salvation lies in following a new Moses into the promised land across the Cabot Strait. By the way, I note by recent papers that there are 30,000 men unemployed in the Maritimes alone. Can it be that things are so wonderful in this paradise that men don't need to work? Gentlemen, before leaving this matter, I would say just this. Look out for those amongst us who would take ourselves and our country on a one-way ride. But let me again return to my comments on the delegation to England. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning,
So I think it's fairly clear from Major Cashin's statements that he was no fan of Confederation, to say the least. And it seems that he had something of a, I suppose, an early conspiracy theory about it. Who knows? The downside of it, of course, looking back from 74 years in the future, is that we may never know the actual truth. In any case, Cashin's later political career, after Newfoundland joined Canada in 49, Cashin was elected to the provincial legislature as an independent. In 51, he joined the Newfoundland Progressive Conservatives, leading it into that year's provincial election in which the party won 5 seats. He served as leader of the opposition until 1953, when he quit the Tories to run again as an independent. It seems that he was never really able to find his fit in politics. Defeated in the election, Cashin then served as Director of Civil Defense for the province until 1965. Cashin's nephew, Richard Cashin, was a politician in the 60s and subsequently an important trade union leader in the province. So that's one of the other luminaries. So the Responsible Government League of Newfoundland, led by Peter Cashin, was formed in 47 by anti-Confederation delegates to the Newfoundland National Convention on the Future of the Colony. It was one of several anti-Confederation movements which suffered intermittent popularity between 1865 and 1948, as the issue of Confederation between the colonies of Newfoundland and Canada was debated. The purpose of the RGL was to ensure that Newfoundland and Canada remained separate countries. Leaving some of this background behind, we will move on to the Commission of Government. Actually, we'll come straight to the Confederation debate. Calls for a return to a system of democracy in Newfoundland had been quiet during the Second World War, but the question of Newfoundland's constitution was reawakened by Clement Attlee, this individual, in the British Parliament. In 46, a national convention was called by the Governor of Newfoundland and the Commissioners of Government. In September 47, the Assembly was convened. The mandate of the National Convention was to debate the various forms of government that the people were to choose from. While almost all members of the National Convention advocated change from commission government, 2 strong factions soon developed. One called for confederation with Canada, the other called for the restoration of responsible government for Newfoundland, thus independence, and for it to revert to its previous status as an independent dominion. Since the pro-Confederation forces in the convention seemed to have the upper hand, a group of business and professional men and women outside the convention formed a sort of political party, the Responsible Government League, to counter the effect of pro-Confederation propaganda. They suffered a split on March 20th, 1948, when a number of younger delegates and supporters, fearing that the League was poorly run and would lose the referendum, left to form the Party for Economic Union with the United States with Chesley Crosby as its leader. I'll just open that now because we'll be coming to that next. The RGL tended to draw its support from the Avalon, Bonavista South, and from Roman Catholics in eastern Newfoundland. There were 2 referendums held in 48, as the first vote on June 3rd was inconclusive, with responsible government receiving 44.6, Confederation 41.1, and Commission of Government 14.3, as we've already covered. Now, a little bit of inside information on why Catholic versus Protestant really mattered. This is during the era of what would have been termed the Troubles in Ireland, and there had always been some tension between Protestant, mostly Anglican, and Catholic in Newfoundland. In fact, when I was a child, that tension was still lingering enough that I ended up, I suppose, bullied would be the right term, because of my having gone to a Catholic school as an Anglican child and being marked out as different because of it. One of the formative experiences of my life, I suppose. But that is why, or may explain why there was some pushback. The idea that, for example, if you presented to an Anglican that a Catholic was pushing for Newfoundland to be independent, then he would most likely, not most likely, but there would be a certain degree of influence based simply on what denomination that person was as to what the Anglican would decide. It's unfortunate, but some of that tension still, a very small amount, still exists today. Oh, sorry. I found my mic stand. And back we go. So, we talked about the split. Talked about where they were getting their support. A second referendum was held, and we've covered the results of that as well. At least I believe we did. Perhaps we didn't. Yes, we did actually cover the second set of results. My apologies. In any case, the RGL attempted to scuttle or delay Confederation through a petition to the British government signed by 50,000 Newfoundlanders, demanding the immediate restoration of the Newfoundland House of Assembly, arguing that only it had the authority to enact Confederation. The petition was ignored, and a legal challenge by 6 members of the pre-1934 House of Assembly that argued that the National Convention Act and the Referendum Act were both unconstitutional was quashed when Justice Dunfield ruled that with the reversion of Newfoundland to Crown Colony status in 1934, the British Parliament was free to do as it saw fit. Now, I would like to know who Justice Dunfield was. And since that says Sir Brian Dunfield, we will try Justice Brian Dunfield. And a little further, just to add, we'll throw Newfoundland into that mix as well. Let me see here. Okay, let me see if I've got the right justice here. 1944, 1939, I believe I do. Okay, that's not helpful. Let me see if that's what I'm looking for on this sidebar here. I believe it is. Okay, that's not much help. Okay, so unfortunately we can't find a lot of information about Justice Dunfield, other than the fact he appears to have been a little bit treacherous, or possibly, to be fair, to Justice Dunfield. It is possible he ruled based solely on what the law was telling him. It is also possible that he was a traitor to his country. I don't know. But I know where my heart falls. Having lost the fight against Confederation, the Responsible Government League decided to join with the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, and formed the Progressive Conservative Party of Newfoundland with HGR Muse, do we have a picture of him? We do not, as the new party's first leader, and RGL leaders Cashin and Malcolm Hollett, also no picture, leading the party through the 1950s. So, now we come to the Economic Union Party, which, of course, is something of a personal preference. Unfortunately, didn't happen. The Economic Union Party, formerly the Party for Economic Union with the United States, was a political party formed in the Dominion of Newfoundland on the 20th of March 1948 during the first referendum campaign on the future of the country. The British-appointed Commission of Government had administered the country since the financial collapse of 1934. I will remind my viewers and listeners that Newfoundland, therefore, had survived 5 years into the Great Depression before it collapsed. If I have my dates right, and I will check. Just doing a quick search in a different window. And the Great Depression is listed as having started in 1929. In fact, it lasted from 1929 to 1939, which means that Newfoundland survived on its own for half of the Great Depression before it suffered financial collapse. Let me see. So it was formed by a split in the Responsible Government Party. The alternatives were Responsible Government, which was restoration of Newfoundland's independence, or Confederation, joining Canada. The EUP was formed by a split in the Responsible Government League, which advocated responsible government. A group of younger anti-Confederation delegates to the Newfoundland National Convention quit the Responsible Government League because they thought the League was disorganized and had failed to present a positive alternative to Confederation. Thus, it seemed that the RGL was doomed to lose the referendum to Joey Smallwood's Confederate Association, advocates of Confederation. And I'm sure some people amongst you now will think, well, see, this is why you don't want to split a vote. Possibly. The EUP was led by St. John's businessman Chesley Crosby. We'll come to Chess in a bit. And co-founded by Jeff Sterling, publisher of the Sunday Herald. If I recall correctly, also the family that continues to publish the Newfoundland Herald and owns, or at least owned as far as I'm aware, NTV and OzFM. The EUP believed that Newfoundland's voters had to be persuaded that responsible government could be made viable again. They proposed to revive the Newfoundland economy through free trade and a customs union. Let me just clear up my definition. It's generally defined as a type of trade bloc which is composed of free trade area with common external tariff. Fair. And a customs union with the United States. They also believed that the promise of economic union would give Newfoundlanders a positive reason to reject Confederation. And we'll just take another quick look at this membership card. And unfortunately, I still can't quite make out the signature there. Okay. There was no economic union option on the referendum ballot. The EUP therefore supported responsible government with the expectation that the independent Newfoundland government would negotiate the union with the United States. The party's support was concentrated on the Avalon Peninsula. Its economic ideas, though popular with the St. John's business community, failed to generate interest in the general population. Now, just to bring up this point, both the responsible government people and the people who were looking at economic union with the United States were both convinced that it would be better for Newfoundland to be independent before it negotiated with anybody. Smallwood's forces attacked the EUP as Republican, therefore anti-monarchist, disloyal, and anti-British. Ironic for the guy who wanted us to join. Yeah. The split of the anti-Confederation forces into two organizations caused problems, tension between the EUP and the RGL, and wasteful division of resources. Conversely, the Confederate Association was well-funded and well-organized across the island. Gee, I can't imagine why. It's almost like Major Cashin might have been onto something. In the first referendum, held on 3rd of June, 1948, responsible government won the most votes. We've covered this already. Since there was no majority, no absolute majority, the results were inconclusive. Considered inconclusive, to be fair. A second referendum was held on 22nd of July with only Confederation and responsible government on the ballot. The Economic Union Party decided to unite its efforts with the Responsible Government League for the second referendum, but morale was poor and the campaign was disorganized compared to Smallwood's well-run machine. Confederation won the second referendum with 52.3% of the votes, and the EUP disbanded. Crosby died in 1962, and Sterling remained active through his media holdings in Canadian discourse until shortly before his death in 2013. Okay, so just to add a little more to this, I have another article that I've been looking at, the same article I've been referring to from here. Here we have images of, I know this is Smallwood. I'm not 100% certain if this is Bradley. But we will have a look through here. Since I can't seem to find a good picture, the picture I was looking for of Ches Crosby is actually quite entertaining, and I think we'll have a quick look at him. So I'll bring him back. So, not to be confused with Ches Crosby. Now, Ches Crosby is a current politician, as far as I recall. Or sorry, I believe he's only recently retired. Relatively recently. But this would have been, I believe, his grandson? Yes. John Crosby, who's a luminous name in Newfoundland and federal Canadian politics, is the son of, if I recall correctly, this Chesley Arthur Crosby. And then the father of this Ches Crosby. In any case, they were raised in relative wealth. Let's see. After his father's death in 1932, Crosby took over the family business and attempted to expand it further by investing in whaling. Crosby was a delegate to the Newfoundland National Convention and favored responsible government. On March 20th, 1948, he split with the RGL, the main opposition party to Joey Smallwood, and formed the EUP, promoting free trade with the U.S. instead of confederation with Canada. He and many younger convention delegates feared that the RGL was disorganized, bound to lose the referendum unless a new party was formed. The divided forces were anti-confederation forces were defeated by Smallwood's Confederate Association in the 48 Newfoundland referendums. Crosby subsequently served as a member of the 7-person delegation sent to Ottawa to negotiate the final terms of union with Canada. Dissatisfied with those negotiations, he refused to sign the final agreement, citing objections to its financial terms, and then retired from public life. His son, John Crosby, who I will cover in the future, became a prominent politician, serving as cabinet minister at both provincial and federal level. I actually need to open that link and save that for another time. Let's just put you over there, John. In any case, let's see. Yes, his son John Crosby became a prominent politician, serving as cabinet minister at both provincial and federal level, the latter in the government of Brian Mulroney, where he fulfilled his father's dream as an architect of the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. He was lieutenant governor of Newfoundland and Labrador from 2008 to 2013. I think we'll get a look at the flag there. And his grandson, also named Chesley, but better known as Ches Crosby, was leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Newfoundland and Labrador and leader of the opposition in the House of Assembly from 2018 until 2021. Interestingly, I can't seem to find that image that I'm looking for Ches. The original Ches Crosby, which I thought was here somewhere. I'll have to have a quick scan around because it was quite a humorous picture, to be honest. Let me try a quick search here. And I will be ending here fairly quickly. I did find the Anti-Confederation song, which is covered by the, if I have it correct, it's Shadilay who covers it. Let me just check this now. I should be able to find this. Here we are. So I'll just play a short clip of this.
Newfoundlanders who plow the salt sea, with hearts like the eagle, so bold and so free. Time is at hand when we'll all have to say if Confederation can carry the day. Then hurrah for our own native isle, Newfoundland. Not a stranger shall hold an inch of her strand. Her face turns to Britain, her back to the gold. Come near at your peril, Canadian wolf.
And unfortunately, I have to stop it there, or I risk a copyright strike. Though I doubt this is something that could be copyrighted. And I do want to express my appreciation to Shadilay for having recorded that song. Old Time Songs and Poetry of Newfoundland. I believe I may have a copy of that book. I will have to have a look. In any case, I'm having a devil of a time finding a picture of Ches Crosby. Let me see if I can't get this to respond to where it was before. I do believe it was on Heritage NF, so there we are. And I need to go to a search for Crosby. I do apologize for the little bit of... Here we are. Okay, so you will note that at the time, this picture is dated... It's interesting that this picture actually comes from Smallwood's book. because I'm reasonably sure this picture probably predates the Second World War, for obvious reasons. No, this is not, in fact, a picture of that fellow from Austria who wasn't a very good painter. Crosby attended Bishopfield College. Yeah, this is Ches Crosby, the leader, or founder, rather, of the Economic Union with the United States Party. So I just wanted to give you an idea of who he was. In any case, folks, I'm done. I will attempt to get this uploaded as fast as possible. However, I suspect it may be a little late today, so I do apologize for that. In any case, thank you very much for being here for this 40-minute video. And if you are someone from Newfoundland, if you are someone who is interested in Newfoundland history, please let me know in the comments. If you have suggestions for other topics on Newfoundland studies that you'd like me to cover, let me know that too. And if you look on the community tab on my channel on YouTube, you're going to see a poll that I'll be putting up as soon as I finish recording this that asks your opinion on the referendum. So if you're interested, do go have a look at that. And I apologize again for being slightly gassy. In any case, folks, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. Bloody hell. Sorry. And rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye. And yes, computer, I would very much like to stop recording.